Happy Saturday, and thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, Ask Nancy. I'm so excited and eager to get this thing launched, get this party started, and really cover a lot of cool topics for you and answer some questions that I've been asked, answer any of your questions as you have them, and just really get to the juicy juice of everything in life, everything and anything in life that you want to hear about and learn about and talk about, debate about, and all that good stuff. I want to start, which I will probably start almost all my videos with, a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. Don't claim to be an expert. I am simply a woman who has experienced all kinds of good, bad, and ugly trauma and things in life, as most, if not all of you have in some way, shape, or form. It's just that I'm someone who chooses to be very open about my path and my journey and eager to share it with you. I've been using social media as an incredible platform for me to share to the masses. It's been my platform of choice because of the burning desire that I have to share my journey to help whoever I can help along the way that may be going through similar things, that may be hurting inside and needing someone that relates, someone that they can resonate with. And so until my book comes out, and even beyond that, and until and beyond the time when I'm able to start doing some public speaking that I'm working on, and also doing some women's retreats and different things like that, social media has really been an awesome platform for me. So I will say that I know we live in a world where a lot of people feel like social media is fake book, or people are putting on a mask before they get on their social media. And while that is true in many cases, let's not generalize, because that is not true in all cases. Anyone who knows me will tell you that I show up exactly who I am. I am authentic on my social media, and I'm exactly the same when you talk to me or meet me in person. I just feel extremely passionate about the experiences that I've had in life and in sharing that journey with other people, because we live in a world of hurt. And the sad reality is that people are really turning, kind of closing off the world and burying things that they've gone through, and getting angrier by the year, getting less connected by the day. And just the human connection is going into a really weird place. And I hate to see that happen. And so I'm using this platform to help whoever needs help, whoever wants to just come here and listen and then watch me talk for a half an hour or whatever. The bottom line is, I really hope that if I can touch someone in the way they need to be touched and resonate with them and help them feel through and heal from, or at least start the journey of healing from something that they're going through, then my purpose has been served. I have had a burning desire for many, many years to talk to people and share my story and just be real about reality and the things that we go through. And so this is so important to me to do this channel. As you can see in starting out, I'm just starting from scratch. I'm not technical. I'm not any fancy schmancy video person. So you're going to get this mug and my voice and my authenticity. And hopefully when this thing grows, which it will, things might get a little fancier or more professional looking. I don't know. But I just feel like this is a great way for me to get my voice out there and to help whoever I can. And that's the point. So today's topic that I want to talk about is it's the thing that I am most passionate about, and I share it all the time on my social media and even with friends and family over the years I have, and that is sexual and physical abuse. And what drove me to do a video on it now and kind of kick off my channel with this topic is because it's something so close to my heart, because it's been a part of my life since I was 2 years old, and I am now 50 years young. And also because I was reading a recent People magazine. Tyler Perry's on the cover. I love me some Tyler Perry. I love me some Medea. And if you all understood the depth of where his creativity and his passion comes from, it's magical what he has written and produced, and where it comes from such a tender, raw heart and reality that so many people are living, and he puts a funny spin on it. But the depths of his soul are in his writings, and his story is magnificent. And so I was reading an article and reading the whole thing about the whole article about him and his life, which I've known about for some time now because he's someone that I admire. I felt really inclined to start off with this topic. He was abused by men and women as a child, and by his stepfather, physically abused. He was sexually abused. He was raped as a child. And it's very sad. But when I read the article, I instantly started thinking back to a show that was on Oprah several years ago, back in I don't know if it was 07, 08, 09, somewhere around that time. And I'll never forget sitting on my couch watching it. It was called 300 Men. And it was men coming forward to talk about their experience with sexual abuse. A lot of it was in the church, in the Catholic Church, but a lot of it was not in the Catholic Church. And it was just with relatives, friends, people, whatever. Most of it was, sadly, people that they knew. 300 men, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg of how many men have been sexually abused. But obviously this is we're talking here about men and women. But the Tyler Perry thing struck a chord. I'm going to do my best when I'm talking about topics that I'm very passionate about that still are in my heart in a very tender way to not get emotional, but I can't promise you that I won't. The thing is, I'm an empath, and for those of you that don't know what that is, that's someone that takes on the feelings of other people, whether we know them or not. For me, it's stronger with people that I know. But for instance, Tyler Perry, I don't know him personally, but when I know of him, and so hearing the story hurts my heart. But if it's a total stranger and not a celebrity, and if it's a story on the news and you see a picture of the person, or if it's something in the newspaper or whatever, or a magazine or whatever, and you see a picture of them with their story, for somehow me seeing the face of that person, and putting a face with the story, is extreme emotion for me. I still get emotional if there's no picture of the person, but it's just a lot stronger if I do see the person. So anyway, I'm working very diligently right now in working on balancing that energy for myself, because I have to not be taking on other people's energy, because what it does is it depletes my own, and that's not good for anyone. So reading this article struck a chord in my heart because it took me back to watching 300 Men. And I'll never forget that, because I remember watching it and just sobbing at these men's stories and sobbing at Tyler Perry's story and emailing my mom as I was watching it. And she probably still has the email. It probably is still in one of my email boxes of an old email, but just typing away as I'm listening, just spilling my guts to my mom about everything with my grandfather who sexually molested me, my fraternal grandfather, from age 2 until age 7 when he got diagnosed with cancer. I just had so many feelings, and I just had to get them out. And I was sitting there emailing my mom, and it was so cathartic to go through those feelings and express them at that time. But that is not, I wasn't even I was on the road to healing, but not consciously knowing and aware like I am today. And frankly, the last 3 years since I've moved to Arizona have been more healing in my entire life than I've ever had any other time. I have truly had an awakening of spiritual resonance about healing and just Mother Earth and connections and energy and everything spiritual. And it's been nothing short of fucking amazing and magical and awesome. It makes me emotional. But one thing that Tyler Perry said, and I wrote it down because I wanted to share it with you, because I want to kind of kick off this topic on that. He made a comment and said, if any of it had worked, he tried to commit suicide at one point. And he said, quote, if any of it had worked, my attempts to kill myself, I wouldn't have gotten to the other side of all the horror. I believe that to everything, there's an opposite. So for all of the pain and hell that I was going through as a child, there had to be beauty. I tell anyone who is in pain, just keep going. One little step is a step. that, when I read that, as you can see, that fucks me up. Because I know firsthand, and I believe it, when he says, for all the pain and hell I was going through as a child, there had to be beauty. And that touched my heart, because when I was going through my sexual abuse from age 2 to age 7, I always knew that it wasn't me. I always knew that there was something better for me. I always knew that life was beautiful, that I had so much to offer, that it was magical. And I knew that what was happening to me was not me. It was not my purpose. It was not my fault. And I'm saying that and sharing that because I know that other people are feeling this. And if they aren't, I'm praying that they will know that it is not your fault. It is not your purpose. And it is not what defines you in this life. Or it's what's happened to your physical body. And in my opinion, it's what has happened to your physical body in order to reach your soul, to teach you a lesson that you need to learn, and to provide the purpose of sharing that experience with other people. That may sound so far-fetched to some of you, and it may sound crazy. Many of the things I might talk about on this channel may sound crazy, but they are raw and real from my heart. And I remember when I was interviewed, two of my best friends that had a podcast, I was one of their first interviews, and it was about my sexual abuse. And they asked me, like, how did I get through it? Like, what was I thinking, whatever. Now, remember, 2 years old, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I'm surprised I even remember, but actually there are things I remember from being 2 years old, crazy as it is. But what I do remember, and through a color therapy thing that I did with this expert on healing through trauma, we discovered through that therapy that I did that in my experiences with my grandfather's abuse, all of them took place in his bed, in his marital bed. My grandmother did not sleep in that bed. She slept on the couch, ironically enough. And my parents were not there. So I slept with my grandfather whenever we visited. And at the time I lived in Chicago with my family, and my grandfather lived in Cleveland, which is where I'm from. So when I was in that bed with him, when going through this therapy, we learned that I actually was looking down at myself. So I could see my little girl self being abused. And I remember very specific instances, and then certain things just not so much, a little blurry. The fact that I was looking down at myself says that my soul left my body during that abuse, which is a true gift, because there are so many people that doesn't happen to. Their soul stays in their body. But mine lifted up out of my body. I was able to leave my physical body and see what was happening to me. I consider that now, with all I've learned about all of that kind of stuff, a saving grace. But I want you all to understand that I loved my grandfather. He was my papa. I loved him like he was my dad. I was his favorite without him picking favorites. And to this day, I forgive him. He passed away when I was 9. He was ill with cancer. But I forgive him, and I have forgiven him many times. I've written him letters and read them out loud and all of that. But to this day, I can honestly tell you I love my papa. There is no less love for him today than I had for him when I was a little girl. Healing never stops. Never ever stops. It is so beautiful to acknowledge trauma and to seek to understand not so much why it happened, because you may never know. I mean, I don't know why my grandfather chose to fondle me and abuse me sexually and say words to me that no 2-year-old or 7-year-old should know. I don't know why he did. But what I learned over time was that he didn't only abuse me, and that he was abused as a child. And none of that is an excuse, but it is a cycle. And cycles can all be broken. And I need all of you to understand that. And if I can break a cycle of any type of abuse that I've had so that it doesn't pass down to my family, then that's huge for me. Cycles can be broken. You can heal through things. Excuse me, as I always say, that the biggest saving grace for me through abuse, even through the abuse when I was a teenager with my ex-husband, the physical abuse, I always knew that is not my life. That is not what I'm here for. This is a step in the process of all I am to become and all I am to do in this world and all I am to be in the temporary life I'm given. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone ever. But when I think back to first the sexual abuse, I mean, the pain, I didn't feel pain when I was being abused. I didn't know any better. You're 2. I mean, who the fuck knows what sex is when you're 2, or fondling or saying the word fuck or any of it? Like, and I didn't tell my parents because it was a game, and because people that know you, they have a really good way of manipulating you. And so I knew it wasn't my fault, but I didn't know it wasn't my fault or had to be my fault or not my fault because I was too young to understand any of that. But the point that I'm making is all of the stuff that we go through has a purpose. They're lessons for our soul. They're lessons for our growth. They're lessons to show us what we're capable of, what we are supposed to be creating, and how. It's like the steps of life. It's like every step you walk up, you're walking into more growth and more awareness. And so many people out there are stuck in addictions because of abuse, because of the way they were raised, because of the environment in which they were raised. And I get it, but there is a way out. And the thing is, it's so simple, but it is so hard for people who are stuck. And fortunately for me, I wasn't stuck in a way that resulted in addiction. I wasn't stuck in a way that I didn't acknowledge or know what happened or refuse to believe what happened. I was stuck all the years of my life up until 3 years ago. I don't even want to say up until 3 years ago because I started healing before that, but I wasn't aware that I was healing. But I was stuck in a way that I was choosing patterns of people to have relations with, men mostly, intimate relations with, that were so unhealthy, that were not a fit, that were not aligned with me and my soul, but I didn't know it. And I desperately just tried to fix everyone I was with. I wanted so badly to be loved in the way that my grandfather loved me, that I would have done anything, all but sold my soul to the devil to feel that love that was not love, because I didn't know any better. But the thing is, every one of those relationships, from my first boyfriend when I was 15, freshman in high school, the summer before freshman year, he asked me out on September 9th, 1982. I just didn't know any better. But from that relationship, it was, if he loves me, he'll have sex with me. He'll want to have sex with me if he loves me. Because my view of sex and love and relationships was so jaded, because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know any better. And I had never sat down and talked to my parents about this. I didn't tell my parents. They were not made aware, even my sisters and brothers. until I was divorcing my daughter's father in 1996. I was 26 years old. So I went my whole life holding on to pain and anguish about something that happened in my childhood that they had no fucking idea about. I wrote them a letter to tell them, and go to find out that both of my sisters were abused as well. So I'll leave it at that because it's not my story to share with their stuff, but the abuse was not just to me, but it was mostly me. I took the brunt of most of it. Honestly, I could talk hours on end about this subject, and I will talk about it again, but I don't want to go too terribly long in this video because I'm already at like 20 minutes, and I know people won't want to stay engaged that long, but for those of you that do, I want to offer hope, and I want to offer understanding that men and women who were sexually abused or are being sexually abused right now, no matter who is abusing them, it is not your fault. It is not about you, even. It's not about you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you damaged goods. It doesn't make you less of a person, less of a human. It doesn't break you to the point of no return. It wounds you, and it burns you, and it hurts you. But wounds heal. If you got a cut that was so deep that it was gushing blood, you would never just say, let me wrap a towel on, it'll go away. You would address it. You would get stitches, or you would put Band-Aids on, you would clean it off, you would nurture it, you would attempt to heal the wound. So when we have wounds that are of people hurting us in one way or another, we cannot just push them to the left and think they will heal, because they won't only not heal, they will fester, they will become infected, they will become poison and toxic in our bloodstream and in our body, and mostly in our energy and our aura. And that will 1,000,000% affect every aspect of your life going forward. Not just relationships, but mostly relationships, because that's what we do in life. We relate to people. It affects how you show up. It affects how you think. It affects how you feel. It affects how you eat. It affects how you sleep. It affects what your body looks like. It affects your weight. It affects every effing aspect of your life if you have buried pain. And I really don't know of anyone who doesn't have something in their life of a story that involves pain, because that's the human experience. So I am the person that is glass half full, never glass half empty. So you will always have me putting a positive spin on shitty shit. And in this case, the positive spin on the shitty shit is that whatever you went through that's so horrible, there is a beauty about it. As Tyler Perry said in his quote, there is a beauty about it because there's an opposite of it. And the opposite of it is the beauty of life and lessons that you are supposed to learn and push through. I have climbed mountains from sexual abuse from age 2 to 7 from my grandfather, and then domestic violence, physical abuse from age 18 to in my early 20s. My grandfather died when I was 9 of cancer, and my abuser who I was married to, my first husband, died when I was 25? I think 25 years old, right after my daughter was born, 25. I had just turned 25, actually. Our son was 6.5. Both of my abusers died. I can't sit here and tell you what my life would have been like if they hadn't. But although a half of my heart genuinely hurts that both of them died, and I grieved horribly from both, the other half of my heart knows that their deaths saved my life and were supposed to happen to set me free. And I know to some people that may sound really selfish, the healing never, ever ends. But you heal and you get stronger. And you can sit here and be vulnerable and talk about it and know that there are people going through it that need to know your truth. They need to feel you're real. They need to know that they're not alone. Being set free. As a 7-year-old, I had no idea that I was being set free, and that grief was impossible to bear. That grief changed my life, had me scared of dying, left me feeling alone and neglected, and so deeply hurt. And it took me years to be without my grandpa. Habits happened to me. I would bang my head on my pillow every night to fall asleep, to get through the thoughts of him and not having him there. It was just so weird when I think back. The grief from losing my ex-husband, the freedom of that grief was paralyzing. It was a relief more than anything else. I was an adult. I knew better. I was afraid of him. I had genuinely loved him. I wanted to say goodbye. I wanted to tell him that I'll always take care of our son. I wanted him to know, even though he was so abusive emotionally and physically and scared me more than I've ever been scared of anything in my life. Anything. I have so many moments with that man that scared me so much that sometimes I just wanted to die to be put out of my misery. I was so afraid, paralyzed in fear. And even with that fear, the only thing that I was concerned about when he died, and I drove to the hospital to find out that he had died, because I wasn't told until I got there. The whole drive there, I was thinking, I just want to tell you that I love you. I just want to tell you that I will always take care of our son. It was as if all the shit and all the pain and all the fear that he had ever put on me just wasn't there. It didn't matter. All I wanted to do was look at him before he died and make sure he knew that he was loved. And that, to me, is a level of compassion that is very rare and hard to find. I have never felt revengeful. I have never held anger for the abuse I've endured. I've never been hateful to towards my grandfather or my ex-husband. Let me restate that. I have felt anger. Anger when I've when I wrote them each a letter and read it back to them. I was very angry, actually. I was more angry with my grandfather because he robbed me. He robbed me of what love is, what love and sex and intimacy and relationships are supposed to be. And I can't turn back the hands of time and have those relationships over. But what I can do is take all that knowledge and all those lessons and all that pain and all that forgiveness and turn it into the most amazing heart full of understanding and love and courage and nurturing and respect and tenderness and intimacy and lovemaking and connection and joy that a heart can share with another person. That is the positive spin. That is how healing just turns and evolves into beauty. As Tyler Perry said, I'm just looking at what I wrote. So for all the pain and hell I was going through as a child, there had to be beauty. There is beauty beyond the pain. I've been talking for over 30 minutes now. I hope some of you stuck with me. This was such a needed video, such a needed topic, and I will talk about it again. But to anyone, man, woman, child who happens to be watching this or knows someone that's been through or is going through abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, physical abuse, emotional abuse, share this with them if you feel so inclined. To any of you who are watching it that have been through it or are going through it, I pray that it touches you somehow, that it resonates, that you feel me in a way that pricks your soul and your heart to know that you can forgive the person who is abusing you or has abused you, and you can forgive yourself for whatever ideas are running around in your head about it, and you can know without question of a doubt that you are worthy, that you are not damaged, that you are a beautiful human soul, that you have so much to share with people, especially because you've been through something so emotionally, physically tough and trying, and that you will bloom